Hello and yes, welcome back to another video, guys. That's right, today we're back to talk about the latest Doctor Who special, The Power of the Doctor. So, I reviewed every episode of Series 13 as it was airing, The Flux, and I liked 2 episodes out of those 6. And then we had the 2 specials. There was a Dalek Time Loop one, which I really didn't like, and then there was the Sea Devils one, which I also really didn't like. And at this point, you know, I wasn't the biggest fan of Series 11 or 12 either, and I'd sort of just run out of hope with this era of Doctor Who, and we're at the final step now on the stairs, and, you know, it's Jodie's last episode. I really wanted her to go out well, but I had no faith in this writing team, unfortunately. I had no faith in Chris Chibnall. And what he delivered here was actually an okay episode. Yeah, Jodie went out okay. And I'm so happy for her because, you know, while I haven't been a fan of this era of Doctor Who, I know it's not Jodie's fault. I can see a great Doctor in her. It comes out every now and then. She seems lovely. And I do like her incarnation to a certain extent. So I'm so happy for her that I like this episode, and especially her actual send-off, the regeneration that happens, which we'll get to in a minute. That was fantastic. So, yeah, I'm actually happy to come on here and talk about Doctor Who for once, because the last couple of specials were a real drag to come on and talk about. But anyway, let's talk about the episode itself before we get to the regeneration. So I'm going to be honest, my memory isn't brilliant with this one because they aired it at the same time as the bloody Formula 1, so I was kind of watching 2 things at once. So probably not the best idea. I will be rewatching it at some point this week to get a fresh take on it. But first off, I want to say my positives, and then I will go into my negatives, because yeah, I do still have some problems with this episode. So, but the positives I want to say is how they handled this episode. It's a big episode, you know, it's the final one for Jodie. I really like that they actually tried to make a big deal out of it, in the sense that they didn't force the timeless child stuff down our throats, because personally I'm really not a fan of that, and I don't think many people are. But I love the fact that we saw older incarnations of the Doctor. Instead of having these new ones that they made up, here's 3 random versions of the Doctor which you never knew about, which come before William Hartnell. We actually get to see the first Doctor, William Hartnell. We get to see the 5th Doctor, Peter Davison. We get to see Colin Baker, the 6th Doctor, Sylvester McCoy as the 7th Doctor, and my God, Paul McGann, the 8th Doctor. I love this man. He's such a good and underrated Doctor. It was so cool to see him, and even the dialogue between them. There's a bit where Jodie says to Paul McGann, because all of the Doctors are in robes, but him, he says, "Why aren't you in robes?" He's like, "I don't do robes." And then the 7th Doctor comes in, he's like, "There's always one." Great, loved all of that stuff. And of course, as you know, we had Tegan come back and Ace, and seeing Peter Davison get to interact with Tegan again, and Sylvester McCoy, the 7th Doctor, get to interact with Ace, was also really sweet. I haven't watched loads of classic Who, but I buy the classic sets as they come out. So I have seen Series 19 with Pete Davison and of course Tegan, and I've seen Series 24 and 26 with the 7th Doctor and Ace. So it was really nice to see these characters actually come back together, as someone who's seen a few episodes of their run. That was really sweet, really well done. And again, just seeing David Bradley come back as the 1st Doctor as well was brilliant, and Colin Baker as the 6th Doctor, and as I say, Paul McGann, so good. Loved seeing him. Then you do have the returning companions. Now, you know, you have a couple more than just Tegan and Ace, but Tegan and Ace, of course, get most of the screen time. Unfortunately, they don't really have loads to do in this episode. It is a bit of a shame, but it is nice to see them again. And it was a bit of a shame for John Bishop. This is a kind of a negative here, that his character was written out so quickly and so poorly, but it did mean that we got to spend more time with just the Doctor and Yaz. And, you know, their scenes together in this one, for once, didn't feel as forced. I feel like because they finally started to build up their relationship in the last 2 specials, finally here it didn't feel as forced. It's like, okay, we're here now where we can talk about it, and it doesn't seem as like, oh, this is a last-minute idea that we've had for these 2 characters. So their relationship actually seemed a bit better. I like their scenes together. Again, some of the dialogue was a bit ropey, but it was well done. And yeah, and then the Master himself coming back was... I'm not a big fan on this incarnation of the Master. He doesn't quite seem too menacing. I don't know, something about it. I'm just not really connecting with him as much as I did with Missy or John Sims Master. But you know, he's decent in the role. I like the big beard and stuff. He looked kind of cool. Although again, slipping into the negative here, the whole painting bit he had, where you see his face morphed into paintings, was laughably bad. And of course, the song bit as well was something else. I know they've done this before with John Sims, where he come out singing Scissor Sisters. I can't decide. But John Sims done it a lot better. But there was one funny moment in that bit when the Master was doing the song, and it's where the Cybermen and the Dalek look at each other like, what the? So, yeah, okay. Let's talk about the Regeneration before we get on to the negatives, because I want to say the Regeneration was done so well. It felt like it was done by a different team, because, you know, they took Yaz away from it so that we could just have this moment with Jodie, with just the Doctor. And they go off to, I don't know where they are, if they're on Earth or not, but they go off to this really beautiful location. And it is so great for this series of Doctor Who, because I remember those promo pictures of Jodie walking out in a hill and the TARDIS in the background. It was in the middle of nowhere. It really suited this era of Doctor Who, I thought, which was nice. And great lighting, everything about it, the effects, really good. Some of the effects in this episode overall were very ropey, but this particular bit looked awesome. The actual Regeneration itself, you know, great. Jodie's last lines, tag, you're it. Not the best, but it does suit her Doctor, I think, and it worked, even though it's probably the weakest final line a Doctor's had, but it did suit her. So yeah, I'm sort of in two minds on it. But yeah, very well done, very emotional. And we all knew it was coming. We all knew it wouldn't be shooty. But of course, David Tennant, my favourite Doctor, my childhood hero, popped back up. You know, as a kid, Doctor Who was like my favourite thing next to Star Wars. And I've been watching since day one of the revival. Episode 1, Rose, I was there. And I've been watching ever since. And even though Eccleston was my first Doctor, Tennant is my Doctor. I grew up just loving him, worshipping that man. And to see him come back was brilliant, and just the, you know, his first line being about his teeth again, and the what, so cool, loved it, brilliant. And yeah, I'm ecstatic to see what comes next, even though it's such a long wait. But I'm ecstatic that, you know, David's back, Russell T Davies is back, we got Catherine Tate back, we got Neil Patrick Harris playing the villain. And in the little teaser we saw for the next one, we do see Ncuti. And I'm very excited to see his version of this beloved character. So, yeah, I am ecstatic for what comes next, which is weird, because I haven't felt this way about Doctor Who in a while now. We just need Murray Gold back. Please. Please, if you're watching, Russell, Murray Gold. That's what we want. Or just, if you can't get him, you know, a big orchestra or something. It works so well with Doctor Who. This score that we've had to put up with for the last 4 years, it hasn't fitted the show, and it doesn't work. Anyway, let's have a look at some negatives of the show. I think there's definitely too many characters in this, because they have to get rid of, as I say, it is a bit of a negative, but then it gives the Doctor and Yaz more time. But, you know, John Bishop has to go instantly. And with him exiting, it was quite nice, because it was like, okay, we can spend time with just these two. But then they bring in 2 old companions. You've got Tegan and Ace. They bring in Kate and Unit. What's his name? Graham, Bradley Walsh's character pops up. The guy from the Flux episodes who was in Game of Thrones, he pops up. So many characters. And on top of that, you know, you've got the Master back. And then he brings back that Cyberman guy, the lone Cyberman. And he brings back those god-awful Time Lord Cybermen. And then the Daleks pop up. Love seeing the Daleks, don't get me wrong, they're brilliant. You'll never hear me complaining about them. But there's just so many things in this episode. And then you've got volcanoes going off. You've got a big Death Star thing in the sky. You've just got... there's just a bit too much, I think, for this one. And you could tell the writers were struggling, because, like, Graham just wanders into frame. And then at the end of the episode, like, I just feel like some characters just get dropped off way too quick. And it's like, there are some story arcs you don't care about either. There's the bit where I said her name a minute ago, not Ace, the other one, where she's going to an event and there's Cybermen shooting in there at her. I don't know how she survived that. There are many cases in this episode though that are like that, where like they're just on top of a train, they got no cover, and Cybermen and Daleks, whatever, they're all shooting at them, and it's like, how are you not dead? How's not one of them hit you? So yeah, definitely some pacing issues. I think it's... Do you know, I feel like it was too long in a way, because there were moments where I was dropping off and losing interest around the start of the episode, and it dipped again nearish the end, before the regeneration, or before the conclusion of the episode, before the last 10 minutes. But also, I definitely think it needed more time at the same time, because there were characters you didn't care about, there were story arcs that didn't feel complete. So yeah, it's a weird one. I don't really know how to feel about it. I just think maybe the pacing was a bit off. And as I say, the dialogue wasn't great either. And yeah, the Doctor and Yaz, their kind of send-off was sweet. I actually quite liked it. There was a little bit in me, actually, for once, that was like, I'm kind of rooting for them to kiss here, because it's like, we've built this up, let's deliver for the fans. You know, so Doctor Who has really, or Chris Chibnall has really tried to force this that relationship upon us in the last 2 specials. And I say forced because it just didn't seem like a thing in the previous 3 seasons. Maybe a little bit in flux, it just seemed to have come out of nowhere. But anyway, now we're here and it's been built up. It's like, kind of want to see him to kiss before Jodie goes, but they didn't do that. It is what it is. But anyway, yeah, I actually thought it was a good episode overall, not great. As I said, there's still problems with it, but I'm very excited for the future of Doctor Who for once, which is, yeah. I mean, I remember enjoying season 10 of Doctor Who, but being ready to leave them off that era, being so excited for the Chibnall era. That quickly went away. I'm hoping it's not a repeat here. I'm hoping that I'm very excited for Russell T Davies, and I'm going to get a few episodes, the few episodes with David, and then we're going to go into shooties, and I'm hoping that excitement actually continues this time. But anyway, yeah, I'll be back in November 2023 to talk about more Doctor Who, because yeah, I will continue to review it, because it is such a special show for me. But anyway, I'm going to give this episode out of 10. I'm going to give it a 6.5. I thought it was, you know, as I say, it was a very, very big step up from the last ones, and it was good overall, but it definitely needed some tidying up. But anyway, that's it for this video, guys. I hope you've enjoyed, as always. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of the episode, and be sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, leave a message, and as always, I will see you next time for another video. Bye-bye.